Nice to see you again. I'm Maurice and I've got another study in the 6,000 Years of Babylon series. We're starting a new book now, volume 3. This is study 19, and I've called it The Trinity of City-States. You'll understand why in a minute. Hopefully it will educate you to what's going on in the world. First of all, I've got a lot of information, so I'll try not to add too much to it of my own comments. I've got a quote from a man called E.C. Knuth. He's written a book called Empire of the City. Very educational. He's not a Christian. You know, sometimes the world have eyes open more than the Christians to see what's going on. And this is what he says. Have you got the quote? In running through this work, some amazing nuggets of information come to light here and there, which fitting together gradually unfold the stunning history and the legal structure of a sovereign world state located in the financial district of the loosely knit aggregation of boroughs and cities, popularly known as the City of London. I'm not talking about London metropolitan, there's 10 million, 15 million people. I'm talking about the 1 square mile, what's called the City of London. The centre of the British Empire, the centre of Christian England. I'm going to shatter your illusions that England was ever Christian. The colossal political and financial organisation centred in this area, known as the City, operates as a super government of the world, and no incident occurs in any part of the world without its participation in some form. This is a highly educated man who's written this. This is not a conspiracy theorist. You can read the book, all right. He's talking about the City of London rules the world, which seems outrageous. But the British Empire is bigger than it ever was. It's changed from overt control to covert control. We still control Africa. That's why they're still poor. We still rape it for the diamonds and the cobalt and the uranium, and we keep them poor. We still control it. I go to Uganda, they've had independence for 50 years, and I say, you're a rich country, all the gold and the silver. Why aren't you prosperous? Why haven't you got streets? Why haven't you got education for your kids? I don't know. I'll say, I know, because you're still controlled. We still keep you poor so we can be rich in the West. So we need to know this, don't we? I've got another quote. It's from a secular quote. Ralph McTell, remember him? Let me take you by the hand and lead you through the streets of London. Let me take you by the hand and lead you through the streets of London. I'll show you something to make you change your mind. I hope I change your mind tonight. Not only about London, there's a trinity of city-states that are the fulcrum of the one world order. So, where are we now? In the statue of Babylon. Where are we now on the world stage? We've had Nebuchadnezzar, the head of gold. We've had the Persian, the Median Empire, the silver. We've had the brass, the Greeks. We've had the Roman Empire, the legs of iron. But we're still under the legs of iron because we're now in the feet, the toes of iron and clay, aren't we? That's the statue of Babylon. We're still in Babylon. Babylon rules. It wasn't Nebuchadnezzar was the head of Babylon. He was the head of Babylon, but the symbol is the timeline of Babylon. So he was the head, and then the shoulders, then the thighs, then the feet. We're in the toes of Babylon. It's still the statue of Babylon. And Nebuchadnezzar still rules. He's still the head. That mindset of Babylon still rules. The head rules the body, doesn't it? My hands can't move unless my head controls it. My feet can't move unless the head controls. So Nebuchadnezzar, the spirit, Nebuchadnezzar's a type of Antichrist, is still controlling the world system because it's the devil. Antichrist is only a mediator to the devil, isn't he? Like Christ is a mediator to God. So Antichrist is getting the whole world to worship Satan through his system. So we're in the period of iron and clay. Well, the whole world soon will worship the beast because the Bible says so. This is not conspiracy theory. The whole world will worship. It said the Antichrist, Revelation 13. I'm going to quote scriptures rather than reading them. I hope you know that I know my Bible and I'm not speaking out of context. Revelation 13. The Antichrist will make an image to the beast and he'll cause the beast to speak, and to as many as would not worship him will be killed. And if you worship him, you'll get a mark, which is your freedom. The mark of the beast is freedom to the world. It's like the passport, the vaccine passport is your freedom. Oh, I've got the vaccine passport. I can go on holiday. I can go here. I can go in the shops. The mark of the beast, we think it's a bad thing. To the world, it'll be wonderful. It'll be the passport to freedom. You can buy and sell. You can go on holiday. You can do anything you want because you've got your passport. The mark of the beast is only terrible to us. You'll be killed if you don't take it. Those who take it, it's the freedom. Can you see? You've got to look at it from the world's point of view. They think that it's wonderful. They think the vaccine's wonderful. They think all the laws that's coming out. Transgenderism, that's wonderful. We've got rid of the archaic morals and now we're enlightened. And that's rubbish. That was old. One man and one woman. Now you can go with anyone you want. I said this afternoon, bestiality is not illegal in 10 American states. And Japan, it's not illegal. You see, they're passing laws, aren't they? And that's normal. That'll become normal to the world. You see, we're in the last days. I mustn't get carried away. So only the remnants will come through, as always, those that won't bow. Well, we should be aware there's 3 centres of control that's prepared for the one world government. And London I'm going to talk about first. London is for finance and control. The Vatican is for the religion. And Washington DC is for the military. There's the 3 centres. You've got the military, the finance and the religion. That's all you need to control the world. Politics needs religion and religion needs politics. They go together. And the whole world is run by finance. The love of money is the root of all evil. So you've got the 3. You don't need any more, do you? You know what Winston Churchill said? Do you know about Winston Churchill? I grew up thinking he was a hero. He saved us, the country and all that. He was a wicked man. He was a eugenist. He was a drug taker. He was a drug user. Did you know? He was a drug addict, Winston Churchill. He was a friend of Aleister Crowley. You know, and he was a eugenist. And you know what he said? The British Empire was acquired by the sword. We went and killed people. We killed the Zulus. We went and massacred them. India, we went and raped the country and put railways in. And we thought, everyone in England thought, wow, the empire's good. We built railways in India. You know why we built the railways? So we could get the diamonds from the diamond mines to the ports to send them to Antwerp. That's why we built the railways. It wasn't for them, it was for us. I've been to Sierra Leone and there's a wonderful railway from the diamond mines to the port. And Sierra Leone don't even own the port. It's owned by London Mining. They steal all the diamonds. When I was there, the governor of Sierra Leone had just done a deal with London Mining and promised them that they would get all the diamonds for 99 years at least and keep the people poor. They don't get the diamonds. That's the control. When William the Conqueror, bit of history, came from Normandy, he was French, wasn't he? And he came over, Battle of Hastings, 1066 and all that. He conquered England, but he never conquered the city of London. The city of London goes back to Greek and Roman times. Did you know that? Londinium, that was a Roman name for it. And there was names before that. It goes right back to Greece because there's a heritage. The devil has his centres all over the world, and that was one of the centres. And he didn't conquer it. And he made peace quite separately with everything in return for its rights and privileges. Did you know? You can Google it, so I'm not talking nonsense. Everything I say is provable. They've had a Lord Mayor of London, the city I'm talking about, not London itself, the square mile. They've had a Lord Mayor from, when is it? From just after 1066. So the City of London, the 1 square mile, that's the City of London, you can Google it and it'll show you the boundaries on the Thames. It includes Fleet Street, the home of Reuters, the propaganda for the whole world. Every news channel all over the world get their news from Reuters. They don't have independent reporters. They get it from Reuters, and Reuters is owned by the Rothschilds. Okay, and so that is propaganda, not news. And it's been planned for hundreds of years. The Fire of London, do you know your history? 1666. 666. 1666, there was a fire in London and it destroyed the centre of London. They say it started in a bakery. I believe they burnt it. I believe they set up fire, the powers that be, because it was rebuilt on occult lines. Christopher Wren, who was from the Royal Society, and that's an occult society, he was a Mason, and it belonged to the Priory of Zion and all those things, the Knights Templars, and he designed London. I've got a book if you're interested, The New Jerusalem by Adrian Gilbert. He's not a Christian. I don't quote Christians because they're full of nonsense often. This is a secular man. And he's wrote that London was built in 1666 on occult lines. There's the dome, St. Paul's, isn't it? St. Paul's. And I'll tell you about that. That's the womb. Masonics and about sex, the phallus and the womb. That's the womb. I'll come to that. But that's very interesting. It's interesting to me as being an draftsman, an architect, because he explains about this Nelson's column, that when the sun is in the summer solstice, it shines at an angle at a certain point, and all the churches are on ley lines in London. It's built on absolute occult principles. Go to the City of London, Joni and I did, and look round. You won't find anything Christian there. There's no saints there. They're all pagan gods. Zeus and Apollos, they're all pagan gods. The Green Man, they're all pagan gods. Everything about it. The fleur-de-lis, which is an occult symbol, that's the Nimrod, Semiramis, it's the counterfeit Trinity, and that's on everywhere. It's on the Houses of Parliament. There's gargoyles, demons all over London on the Houses of Parliament. How can we be a Christian country when it was built on paganism? It was built on Christianity. Let me not run ahead of my notes. Because it's in me, I'm saying things that I shouldn't. Did you know the City of London is guarded by dragons? There's the dragons. They guard the City of London. So who's in power? There's another one. The City of London. As you go into the city, not London itself, when you go into the square mile, that you've got to pass through a dragon to get in there guarding it. London Bridge, there's two. Fancy having dragons guarding. Dragons are demons, aren't they? Satan, dragon. Why would Christian England put dragons guarding the city? We've got to change our thinking. I thought Churchill was a great man. I thought England used to be a Christian country. It was, because Christianity's pagan as a religion, and it's built on paganism. There's the dragons. Any more, Joni? There's the City of London. I know you can't see the whole of London, but you can see the Thames, can't you? The Thames embankment. And the Knights Templar is right in there, going back to Geoffrey de Bouillon and all those old Masons and Knights Templars. And the embankment, Cleopatra's Needle, which is exported from Egypt. Every obelisk is a phallus. Did you know the City of London doesn't belong to Great Britain, the city? It's an independent city-state. Did you know it's got its own flag? There's the City of London flag. There's the city coat of arms, and here's the British coat of arms. That's the British coat of arms, isn't it? But London have their own coat of arms because they don't belong to Great Britain. It's an independent state. Just in case you think that things that say, well, we honour God, like on the pound, the American dollar, in God we trust. They trust in Lucifer. It's the pyramid with the eye at the top. They don't trust in my God. Honour God. That's a Masonic. Can you see the square? That's Masonic. Honour God. Their God is Lucifer. That's not my God. It's got the Mason sun. That's in front of a Masonic lodge. Honour God. So don't be deceived. So why was the City of London rebuilt as pagan Rome, with dragons to guard its entrance? Gog and Magog. They're in London. Gog and Magog. That's the Guildhall in London, in the centre of the square mile. There's Gog and there's Magog. Demons. They're in the City of London. And there's the Church of Saints Dunstan in the west, on Fleet Street in the Square Mile. That's the Lord Mayor's Parade. When the Lord Mayor has a parade in the City of London every year, they make massive effigies of Gog and Magog. There they are, Gog and Magog. That's the Lord Mayor's Parade. There's the demons guarding the City of London. Isn't that amazing? I took Joni and I said, Gog and Magog's in London. And I went to the Guildhall and I saw the two demons, Gog and Magog there. And I said, that's Gog and Magog. She said, are you sure? I said, yeah, I know. So she asked the curator. He was an Indian man. And she said, who are those statues? He said, oh, that's Gog and Magog, missus. So she said, well, what are they? He said, oh, there's the saviours of London. The saviours of London, Gog and Magog. Can you see how pagan it is? And they parade them for everyone to see, Gog and Magog. And Christians don't know about it. They never question and say, oh, it's Christian England. We didn't Christianise the world, we paganised it. I can't believe that England was ever Christian. Maybe it was after Jesus and the apostles went. I believe that when the Romans came, England was Christian. But we've been paganised, haven't we? I won't go into that. So, when I saw all that, because I used to say to Joni that England was Christian, that's our heritage, Christian England. And when I took her to London and she saw all that, she said, how can you call England Christian with all that? And I had to change my views. I thought, from 1066, certainly it wasn't Christian, was it? So, there's only two possible answers. One, England was never Christian, at least from 1066. Or England is a Christian-based country, but Christianity is part of Rome. Part of paganism, part of Babylon. In other words, Christianity is only another branch of Babylon. Well, I can only conclude the latter's true. Why would Christianity look like the true church? Because Satan is the master counterfeiter. He wants to be like God. Satan is transformed as an angel of light. He doesn't come with horns on. He comes in a false preacher. He comes as a false prophet. He comes as an angel of light. And Paul said, no wonder if his ministers are transformed as ministers of righteousness. So they may preach the right gospel, but their aim is to deceive you. The devil will tell you truth, so you believe the lie. Do you understand the devil's tactic? He doesn't come with a lie. He tells you the truth first. What was the first lie he said? After the truth. He said to Eve, God knows the day you eat it, you'll become like gods to know good and evil. That was true. Because chapter 3, God says, behold, man has become as us to know good and evil. So the devil told something true. And then he said, you will not surely die. That was the lie. So he tells you the truth. He gives you a nice big steak, but he puts the arsenic in it. Do you understand? There's more steak than arsenic. There's more truth than lies. It just takes a little bit, a little leaven leavens the whole lump. So the devil's clever. He'll tell you something that's true. A preacher will come and preach salvation by faith, and you think he's all right. You've not looked for the fruit. You know them by the fruit, not the suit, and not the anointing. Satan was the anointed cherub to most people, so you don't go by the anointing. He says you'll know them by the fruit. Are they producing the life of Christ? Are they covetous? Are they making money out of the gospel? What are they doing? Are they humble? Because a man who preaches the truth and is proud, that's the character of Satan, pride. He's a false prophet. In Jesus' eyes, because the fruit's wrong, isn't it? It's not the message. God will use wicked men to preach the gospel. Paul said, even though they're preaching out of contention, the gospel's being preached. It doesn't make the man right, does it? We judge them by the fruit. So why is false Christianity like the true? Because the whore of Babylon looks like the bride. The bride of Christ, streets of gold, foundations of precious stones, gates of pearls. Look at the whore of Babylon, chapter 17. What does it say? I'll show you the whore of Babylon. A beautiful woman. She was attired in gold and silver and precious stones and pearls and red and scarlet, religious colours. The bride looks like a whore. If I look at a woman, do I know whether she's a virgin or a whore? If she's beautiful and washed and cultured? It's the heart that makes you a whore, not the appearance. I'm not talking about some cheap, as we say, scrubber on the street corner full of drugs. I'm talking about a courtesan. All right, a high-class courtesan who would go with billionaires and kings. I'm talking about that sort of woman. You wouldn't know that because she speaks wonderful English. She's got a Porsche. She has designer clothes. She's wonderful. But she's got the heart of a whore. She's playing the whore to a prime minister or a businessman. And you wouldn't know the difference. To talk to them, you think, well, what a fine lady. But she's a whore when she's with those people. So the bride of Christ and the whore of Babylon look the same outwardly. That's why you've got to look for the fruit and not the appearance. So that's why England looks like Christian England, because we sing the songs and we do all the right things. Beware of false prophets, which come to you as a wolf. No, which come in sheep's clothing. If a wolf's got a sheep's clothing, it looks like a sheep, not a wolf. Well, it's a sheep. He's got a woolly thing. He says bar. He preaches the gospel. That's the bar. He says what Christians say. But inwardly, they're ravening wolves. A false prophet is a sheep with a wolf's heart. They're in the church as sheep, as ministers of righteousness, but they've got a wolf's heart. They're in it for bums on seats because it's more money. They're after your money. They're after their empire. I'll have the biggest church in Manchester. That's Babylon building. Christ said he'll build a church. If you're trying to build a church against Christ, he'll build the church. We preach the gospel and God adds daily to the church such as should be saved. We're not building the church. It's not our church. We are the church. Let Christ build his church. Don't get empire building. That's Babylon. Let's build a city and a tower to reach God. Numbers and ambition is to do with Babylon. Beware of false prophets. So I've looked at the cities. Let's look at the policemen, just to show you that they have their own police force, the City of London. There's the policeman that you know. A policeman in Manchester wears a cap with that checkered hand on. If you go to the city, as soon as you go in the city, they have red and white to let you know they're an independent police force. They don't belong to Great Britain. All right, you can check it out. Can you see how it's independent? Because it's ruling the world of finance. The city, in fact, is a privately owned corporation. It's a privately owned corporation. It doesn't belong. It's a sovereign state. 677 acres of location in the heart of the 610 square mile of Greater London. You know the population of the city? It's only 4,000. That's the City of London. That rules the world financially, 4,000. Greater London has 32 boroughs, and before Brexit, I checked up because I preached this 10 years ago and my figures are out of date, so I'm up to date. Before Brexit, London metropolitan area was the most populated metropolis in the European Union with a population of 14 million. That was Greater London before Brexit. We're not part of Europe now, so it was the biggest conurbation, that's a modern word. Manchester is a conurbation because it goes from, I don't know, Wythenshawe to Wigan. It's massive, isn't it? The Crown, the city, the Crown, is a committee of 12 to 14 men who rule independent sovereign state known as London or the city. It's not subject to the sovereign and is not under the rule of the British Parliament. The city is the financial hub of the world and is often called the wealthiest square mile on earth. Did you know that London fixes the gold price? The Rothschilds used to do it. Every Monday the Rothschilds set the gold price because they were in control. But now 14 banks by telephone and I suppose it's video conferencing. Every Monday or twice a day or whatever it is. They fix the gold price, so they control the world. Whoever rules the gold is ruling the world, because the world's currency was based on that. When all the currencies fail because of fiat money, which it is, it's not worth anything, gold will still be worth something. That's why it's in the hand of individual. Governments don't hold gold anymore. There's no backup. It's individual, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers who hold gold. And there's the banks, the Bank of China, the Bank of Communications, etc. It's a cartel. They're all in the same club. There's no, that's for appearance. All major British banks have their headquarters in London, and 385 foreign banks have banks in London. 70 US banks, US, the richest country in the world, 70 banks are located in the City of London, 70 US banks, and 385 foreign banks because it's the centre of the world. The Stock Exchange, Lloyd's of London, the Baltic Exchange, that's for shipping contracts. Fleet Street, newspapers for publishing. The London Metal Exchange, valuable metals. Sugar, the commodity exchanges in London, the trading of rubber, wool, sugar, coffee, are all in the square mile. The British Parliament does not make a move without consulting the Lord Mayor of the city. Well, do you know the Lord Mayor of London? Sadiq Khan, isn't it? Everyone knows that. That's Metropolitan London. Do you know the name of the Lord Mayor of the City of London? I bet 1 250,000 don't know. The Lord Mayor of the City of London, who's not answerable to the Sovereign. Well, his name's Vincent Keaveney. And his chaplain is a Jesuit, Reverend Monsignor James Curry, Catholic priest. Who's ruling? He's the Lord Mayor of the City of London. People don't know, like they don't know there's a President of Europe. There's a United States of Europe. Who's the President of Europe? I bet you don't know. You know the British Prime Minister. And we're not in Europe now. But before Brexit, they ruled. We were ruled by, and we don't even know there's a United States of Europe and there's a dictator of Europe. I'm going to show you that Europe was a template for the one world order. And that's the way the world will go. Europe was a trial run, how to manipulate and control the world and make it one. It doesn't matter how we've come out, but I'll show you in I think it's tomorrow morning. Well, yeah, the list of the Lord Mayors of the city since 1189 are obtainable as a PDF. You could just Google it. Lord Mayors of London from 1189, and you can get a PDF with every Lord Mayor. They trace the lineage because bloodlines are important to Satan. And you can trace the Lord Mayors of London from William the Conqueror to the present day. That's amazing, isn't it? That's a lot of years. The British Empire was nothing more than the empire of the crown. Did you know the P&O line and the East India Company? They were all owned by the empire. Queen Victoria made a fortune by running opium from India to China. The Boxer Wars, if you don't know your history, the Boxer Wars, we went to war with China to force China to take the opium, the drugs, Hong Kong. And that's why the banks are at the gateway. Hong Kong was the gateway to China. That's why we've got the HBC, Hong Kong, Shanghai Bank. That was to funnel the drug money from Europe, Bangkok. There's massive centres to funnel in the drug money because governments, the IRA are the biggest drug runners in the world. The British royalty are drug runners. They earn billions a year through drug running. It's still going on. It's amazing, isn't it? There's billions of pounds in it. Of course royalty are in it. It's money. They're into money and finance and control. They're into all sorts. The Vatican are the biggest child traffickers in the world. That's what happens at the top. They're serving Satan at the top. They're not serving God. So if you're serving Satan, you're into sexual perversion and drugs and all sorts of things that we don't want to talk about. We need to get our eyes open, don't we? So the British Empire was the largest empire in history. Do you know that? The Babylonian Empire, then the Persian Empire was bigger, the Roman Empire was bigger. The British Empire was the biggest empire the world has ever known. For a century it ruled global power. At its height it held sway over 458 million people. That's a long time ago. The population's maybe another third since then. A fifth of the world's population, little Great Britain, controlled by 1 little square mile, controlled a fifth of the world's population, almost a quarter of the whole landmass of the planet. The Queen owns all Canada. Why do you think they call it the Royal Mounted Police? If they've got they'd call it the Canadian Police, wouldn't they? But it's still the Royal Mounted Police. The Queen decides who's the Governor of Australia. They don't decide themselves. They've still got power. The Queen's one of the most powerful women in the world. So it's changed from overt control to covert control. Very clever. We gave them independence and still control them. That's clever, isn't it? After World War II. I've been to 12 African countries, and many of them were given independence. And it's obvious, they're still slaves. They're still poor. Africa is the richest country in the world. They've got more gold, more uranium, all the minerals, the cobalt. Every mobile phone needs cobalt, and it's there. And they go to the Congo, where there's a lot of cobalt, and they just massacre a village, wipe it out. And they say, oh, it's ethnic cleansing from Uganda. But they train the Ugandans. The World Wildlife Fund, by Prince Philip, who's deceased now, they're always cross-border. You look at them, and the Wildlife Fund is between Uganda and Kenya, or it bridges the two because that's where they train the terrorists. Prince Philip was a eugenist. He believed in culling the population. He said, if I come back, I want to be a virus and wipe out half the planet. That's what Prince Philip said. He's Satanist. Don't read what the newspapers say. Go behind the lines and get the quotes from some of these people. I've got a quote from Churchill, I don't know whether I've got it, where he said, in 1948, we want a United States of Europe. This is Winston Churchill, supposed to be patriotic to England. And he was talking about a United States of Europe, because they're in the occult, they've got a plan, you see. Well, I've been to Sierra Leone. I didn't see any of the millions of pounds that have been children in aid. Children in aid, they raise 50 million. I can't see any of it in Africa. They're still as poor as ever. I can't see it. Charities, a lot of it is a con. They use Oxfam to move arms. I don't want to go into it. Do you know Terry Wogan received £7,000 for doing the appeal? He was appealing for children in need. Why didn't he give his services for free? It's for charity. He took the he should have said, send the £7,000, my fee, send it to the children in Africa. Oh no, he took his £7,000 for appealing for poor children. Can you see? It's just a show. He put on a sad face on all these poor children and got £7,000 for putting on a sad face. Can you see? Don't believe the media and these people. You think, well, they're sincere, they're crying. They're actors. Actors can cry at will. They're actors, hypocrites, aren't they? All right, I've said enough about London. Number 2, Washington, D.C. Same applies. This is for military control and manipulation. I've not been to Washington, D.C. I want to go to, when God supplies the money, to have a look around, because I know it's built on occult signs, the same as London. John Adams, if you know anything of history, who's a famous American, he said the government of US was not in any sense founded on the Christian religion. The government of the US, the Pilgrim Fathers, I believe, were real Christians. They escaped persecution. They went across. So I'm not discounting that they went to New England and wanted colonies, and they were righteous. But when they formed the 13 states, when the 13 states were there, and they formed the US government, paganism had already taken over. They sent the Masons across, Francis Bacon and all these people knew Atlantis. They sent it across. And it was founded on paganism. Washington, D.C. is built on occult lines. You can see it everywhere. There's the demons and the gods everywhere. And it's the same. It's an independent state. Do you know Washington, D.C. doesn't belong to America? It's not part of America, like London is not part of Great Britain. Do you know what D.C. stands for? Washington, D.C. What state is Washington, D.C. in? It's not in any state. Washington, D.C. is District of Columbia. Columbia is ISIS, Ashtaroth, Mary, Mother of God. Columbia. Every time you see a film, there's Columbia. That's the Statue of Liberty enlightening the world. It's pagan. It's the same woman, isn't it? That's ISIS. Every emperor has its own name for it. You know, it's ISIS for the Egyptians, and it's another god in another, and now it's Mary, Mother of God. Same deity, enlightening the world. Oh, Mary, enlighten us. She's got a light round her head. She's lightening the world. That's the same goddess. District of Columbia, District of Mary, Mother of God. America's not Protestant, it's half Catholic. What's one of the states? Maryland. Dedicated to Mary, Maryland. That's why it's called Maryland. Canada, New British Columbia. Can you see how we've named Christian England? We're not named them after Jesus, the state of Jesus. It's Columbia, a goddess. Well, it's the headquarters of the military. Did you know America's the largest manufacturer of arms in the world? They export arms to everywhere, their enemies. Where do you think Afghanistan gets its arms from? They don't manufacture arms. Where do you think the terrorists get their arms from? Terrorists don't manufacture arms. The IRA didn't manufacture arms. They didn't have arms factories. Where do all the African countries get their arms from? America. It's the biggest arms manufacturer. They sell the arms to anyone, their enemies, because they want chaos. They want the population depleted. Do you know who's number 2 arms dealer in the world? Manufacturer, France. And Britain is number 3. We're the 3rd biggest arms manufacturer in the world, after America and France. You know, the war machine is one of the most profitable businesses in the world. Of course people want us to go to war. They cause wars. They blow up ships and say, oh, it's the enemy, so they'll start a war. Because if you shoot a ship down, or imagine shooting a big fighter down, a bomber, they cost 10 million each. So you shoot down 10 planes, it's £100 billion. Whoa! Thank God for war. It brings the money and it's business. Can you see? When you're into big money, you don't care about people's lives. It's business. We'll sell more planes if there's a war. We'll send more guns, more ammunition. They clap their hands when there was a war. Can you see how wicked it is? And America's the biggest warmonger in the world. They're not the guardians of peace. Did you know that the Statue of Liberty was a gift to America from a French mason? I've got his name, Augustus Bartholdi, Frederick Augustus Bartholdi. He was a sculptor and he presented it to America. It was a Masonic thing. Jefferson went to study the Illuminati in France. Did you know Thomas Jefferson, the American president, he went to France to learn about the French Revolution and the Illuminati, and they presented that to America. It's a Masonic symbol. Liberty enlightening the world. That's what's written at the bottom of it. Liberty enlightening the world. Mary enlightening the world. Mother of God. Christians are not wise. They don't look at these things. Maybe that's why I'm here to educate them. You don't have to believe any of it, but please don't write me off. Check it out for yourself. Don't believe me. I'm bringing you the facts for you to consider. Well, like England, America wasn't founded on Christian principles, but Babylonian ones. Do you know the Declaration of Independence? It's a declaration of rebellion. They say we have a right to rebel. Nobody's got a right to rebel. Rebellion can never be right. It's a declaration of rebellion. It was against the British government. All right, the British government may have oppressed them or whatever, but rebellion is always wrong. Do you know it's a New Age document? If you read it, it's New Age language through and through. I know a bit about Masons. You read the Declaration of Independence. It's self-evident. These facts are self-evident. They're not self-evident. God created all men equal. That's the first lie. Did he create all men equal? Of course he didn't. I'm small. I'm not equal to anyone. God never makes things equal. Everything is different. God never makes all men equal. Some are born in poverty and some are born in wealth. Is that equal? You're not born equal, are you? Some are born in Africa as slaves and beaten every day. I've had a wonderful life in England. I've never been beaten in my life. I had a good father. I've never had a fight in my life. I've had mental fights I've had a man pointed a gun at me and he backed down, not me, because I'm a strong spirit. But I've never had a physical fight in my life. I've had a wonderful life. So I'm not equal to some. I go to people in Africa and I see the state they live in. It's like the pigsty. They're willing to eat the husks that the pigs eat. They're scratching round. They've got cuts in their feet because they've no shoes and there's glass about and that. God didn't create everyone equal. And everyone has a right to pursue happiness and equality, fraternity. These are Masonic things. God didn't ever give us a right to seek happiness. He gave us a right to seek him. The pursuit of happiness is pagan. Pleasure, happiness, what pleases me? Well, women please me. Well, money pleases me. Well, drugs pleases me. Well, business pleases me. Happiness is pleasure. The pursuit of happiness. What pleases you? It's about self. It's not about self. It's about God. God says, deny self. Don't seek your own pleasure. Don't seek your own happiness. Seek God's happiness. What will please God, not will please you. It's pagan through and through. If you've got eyes to see. If you haven't and you think it's wonderful, God bless you. But God's opened my eyes and I can see it's all pagan. Well, it's independent from America. It's in its own district, like London, the District of Columbia. It's not one of the 52 states. These are some of the images. I've not been to Washington, but I've looked at them. Look at these pagan gods. See the stars round it? The five-pointed star. There's a Capitol building. Who do you think's there? Can you see the statue blown up at the side? That's Mars. The Roman god Mars on the Capitol building in America. What's a pagan god doing there? Can you see they built on Greek and Roman lines with the pillars and the triangle at the top, the pyramid? That's the eye of Lucifer, isn't it, that pyramid? Can you see all the symbolism and the pillars? There's the dome. That's the womb. Whenever you see a dome, that's the womb. That's the Jefferson Monument. That's the Lincoln Memorial. See, it's built on Roman Greek lines. Why? Can you see the Washington Monument in the distance? That's an obelisk. And there's water. There's always waters there because as above, so below. So there's a reflection. When the sun's in a certain part, there's a reflection of the obelisk in the water. They often have water in between because as above, so below. Baphomet. One hand up and one below. As above, so below. Baphomet is bisexual. That's why we've got transgenderism. He's a man and a woman, all in one. You're all bisexual, don't you know, according to the modern thinking. You've got the woman in you and you've got the man. Just choose which you want, or be both if you want. That's Baphomet, that's Satan. And they put the statues round about. There's the flag. That's not the American flag. That's the flag of Washington, D.C., independent, it's got its own flag. Flag means nationality, doesn't it? You have a national flag. Well, that's their flag. The police department, they have their own metropolitan police. Let me read this. The centre of all three branches of the federal government of the United States are in the District of Columbia, this little area, independent, including Congress, President and Supreme Court. The city hosts 176 foreign embassies, as well as the headquarters of many international organisations, trade unions, non-profit organisations, lobbying groups and professional associations. A locally elected mayor and a 13-member council, the 13 keeps cropping up, doesn't it? 13-member council have governed the district since 1973. As with London, it has its own flag. Notice the 3 stars on the flag. Notice the 3 stars on the coat of arms. That's the Trinity city-states, London, Washington, D.C. and the Vatican. They're telling you that's the Trinity that's going to rule the world. In addition to the district's own metropolitan police, they have their own police. Many federal law enforcement agents have jurisdiction in the city as well. Did you know the first president of the United States, this is why I know it wasn't based on Christianity. I accept the Pilgrim Fathers were Christians, but when the state was formed, that's the first president of the United States, George Washington. There he is with the Masonic apron on. That's him in his Masonic regalia. In the lodge, see the checker floorboard? Whenever you see that checker floorboard, that's Masonic. When you see it in the pop videos, when you see it in the cathedrals, it's Masonic. And there's the pillars, Jason and Boaz and all the things. That's George Washington, proud with his Masonic apron. See the compass and things on the square? That's the first president, a Mason. So how can it be founded on Christianity? America's not Christian. It is in religion, but it's Babylon. That proves it to me. Well, let's move on to the Vatican. Well, keep away from the Vatican, but let's talk about it. That's for religious control and manipulation. Vatican City, I think everyone knows this, it's an independent city-state. It doesn't belong to Italy. They have their own police force, the Swiss Guard. Surely you know about that. That's the police of Vatican City. They have their own police with their own uniform. Those are not Italian police, are they? That's the Swiss Guard who guard the Vatican. So they're independent. So if you're an independent nation, you need your own police force, you need your own flag, you need your own coat of arms. Have we got a coat of arms for the Vatican? There's their own coat of arms. The keys. Keys of the kingdom given to the Pope. That's their coat of arms. Have we got the flag? There's the flag of the Vatican. It's not the flag of Italy, is it? If it was part of Italy, it's their national flag of independent Vatican state. It's the religious capital of the one world order, I believe. Did you know the Rothschilds ran the Vatican Bank for years? The Rothschilds. They ran the Vatican Bank. They're all in the same club. They ran it from 1923. I've got some figures here. Christianity is accepted as the largest religion in the world. Did you know that? Islam isn't the biggest. Christianity is the largest religion in the world. Rome is the centre of it. All denominations of Protestant churches are only branches and daughters of Rome. We all came from the Catholic Church. That's why Kenneth Copeland is saying we need to get back to the Catholic Church, because the Catholic Church now accept we're saved by faith alone. The Pope has said it. We say, oh yeah, we're saved by faith alone. So you can't, how can you protest anymore? There's nothing to protest against. Rome's come in line at last. Hallelujah. We're all Roman Catholics. So let's go back to the Mother Church. The Pentecostals and Charismatics are rushing back to the Catholic Church in America. Ulf Eichmann where is he? Sweden. He's become a Catholic. He was a charismatic man doing signs of... He's become a Catholic. They're rushing back. Billy Graham was the greatest advocate of getting people to the Catholic Church. He wouldn't come to London to Earl's Court to hold a crusade unless the Catholic bishops were on the platform. I'll tell you a clue. Anyone who has an audience with the Pope is working for him. The Pope doesn't bless anyone who's not working. Jimmy Savile had a papal knighthood. You've got to be working for the Pope for him to bless you and give you an ordinance. And Billy Graham had many. He was knighted by the Catholics. He was a covert Catholic. You could do the research. God used him mightily. But he did more to bring the one world religion in than any man living. Because he united. Before Billy Graham, everyone said Catholics, that's the whore of Babylon. Martin Luther, Spurgeon, John Wesley, all these great preachers, the Prince of Preachers, that's Spurgeon, all these others, they all believed the Catholic Church was the whore of Babylon. But from Billy Graham embracing the Catholics and the charismatic renewal, it's become acceptable. And now Catholics are Christians. But it's a pagan religion. So is Christianity. We're just branches of the same. Vatican City is a residence of popes. And it's the smallest independent state in the world. It's just an enclave surrounded by Rome. So let me come to an end. The womb and the phallus. It's horrible to talk about these things, but the symbolism is there. Every one of these three cities are the same. Let's look at them. St. Paul's. There's St. Paul's. There's the womb. Gargoyles on it. Demons guarding it. How can that be Christian? If you put demons on to protect you, there's something wrong, isn't there? And opposite on the Thames is Cleopatra's Needle. That's the phallus. That's the womb. There's Cleopatra. That was exported. See the sphinxes on either side of it. Why have they got Egyptian sphinxes in Christian London? Why have they got an obelisk, a big erect penis in the middle of London on the Thames? That's what it is, an obelisk. And they imported that, Cleopatra's Needle. They transported that hundreds of years ago by ship and then barge. It was a tremendous operation. It's hundreds of feet tall, weighing thousands of tons, I suppose, and they exported it. Why not just build a concrete one? They had to have it. It had to come from Egypt. There's a power where it came from. It had to come from Egypt. And it's erected in London. Amazing, isn't it? Look round a graveyard. You can soon spot the Masons. They always have an obelisk on the gravestone. You know, they let you know I'm on the square. I'm a Mason. They're proud of it. All right. St. Paul's. There's the dome. In the middle of the circle, can you see the obelisk in the centre of the circle? A circle on the point is always the sexual act. I don't know if you know it in the occult. When you have a circle, that's the womb, and the spot is the penetration. That's in a circle. It's not by chance. They don't just throw things up in the air and see how it lands like a jigsaw puzzle. They design it specifically. The people who design cities are masons and occultists. You can't get to the top of any profession in the medical, in the police, in anything in the army unless you're a Satanist and a mason at the very top. And those are the people who design our cities, so it's built on occult symbols. So there's the dome and the obelisk. Washington, D.C. Can you see the building in the forefront, the dome? Look past it and you can see the Washington Monument in the distance. Can you see it? They're always there. They're telling you something. We rule the world. The Masons, the occult, we rule the world. Well, those three city-states have been set up over the last couple of centuries. America's only 100 years old. Do you know that every steeple is an obelisk? Every church steeple. Why do we have a church steeple? Oh, it's to point to God. You don't need a building to point to God. Buildings can't worship God. Can they? Big Ben. Big obelisk. The Big Ben is a phallus symbol. All the architecture is telling you there's a church, but why has it got... What's that symbolic of? God never said build buildings with big pointed towers on, did he? Can you see? Satan is sex mad because he wants to, well, I'll talk about it, the DNA. Satan inspired the discovery of DNA because he wants to make man live forever. It's all about reproduction, angels mating with men, and the Star of David is two triangles coming together, the male and the female, to get the star. It's not nice to talk about, but it's the facts, you know, and there it is everywhere, even churches. Churches were built by the Masons. They put gargoyles on the churches. And they put graveyards round the church. Fancy putting dead bodies round the live church. The Jews weren't allowed to touch the dead. It was unclean. You had to bury them as soon as they were dead, because it was unclean. A dead body's unclean. Fancy putting unclean dead bodies round the church, the holy church of God, if it's holy. And the higher the church, the closer the dead bodies are. In big cathedrals, they bury them in the church, in the crypt. Death and hell in the church. Can you see? We've been misled to think, oh, it's built to the glory of God. No, it's the glory of the Masons, the architects, and all the symbols are all over there. So let me finish. There's the 3 city-states. I believe those will rule the world. It may change, but they've been set up over many years, a couple of centuries. What controls? Who's in control? Finance. Finance controls, doesn't it? Babylon falls and all the merchants wail because nobody buys the goods anymore. They've lost the finance. The world's run by finance. You can soon bring a politician down, just make the country bankrupt, and everyone will get rid of the government because we've no money in our pockets. So money controls the world. The love of money is the root of all evil. So I believe London will be the ruling, because you need the finance. You need finance for the arms, and religion needs finance. So I'll leave those thoughts with you. Please, if you're watching on Vimeo or YouTube or every other channel, I don't ask you to believe all I've said. Check it out for yourself. This is my investigation over many years, and I'm convinced that it's true. I know things may change, but I'm not perfect, so check it out. Never believe a preacher. Check it with the Word of God. Check it. There's lots of information out there, and check it. Find out for yourself. But surely something I've said today is true. It's enough to make us think that the one world government is nearly complete. The 3 centres are already in place to take over the finance, the military and the religious, because they all work together. As soon as a denomination gets powerful, money comes into it, doesn't it? My own denomination, Assemblies of God, it started off poor people getting thrown out of the Baptist church because they spoke in tongues, getting thrown out of the Methodist. But 50 years later, the government was suing them for, I think it was £1 million tax evasion. I'm not saying they did it deliberately, but you see, when finance comes in and you buy properties, and we own 500 churches, you're running a business, not a ministry. And it's very easy to do, and I'm not criticising them, because it's the way of all flesh. And no denomination has ever started and been able to avoid politics and business and commerce coming in. No revival ever has lasted. They've all prostituted themselves and become daughters of the Babylon. And that's God's way. At the end of the year, when the roses give perfect blooms, you don't cry, you cut them down to the stump. Next year, there'll be a new thing. God's happy when the revival dies, because he knows it'll go into apostasy. Let it die. God will get a new revival. The remnant will come through. So can you understand that it's all right? This is God's plan. The remnant keep coming through, and the bride will come through in the end. So Lord, I pray that I'll not confuse people. That's not my idea. It's not my idea to show off knowledge, Father. It hurts me, Lord, to talk about these things to my own country and the state of the world, how it's run by evil people. The whole world lieth in wickedness. Lord, it doesn't please me to speak of these things. But I know that Christians need to be aware of what's coming on the earth. They need to be aware of Satan's pernicious plans to take over the world and destroy Christianity and the bride of Christ. The dragon's waiting to destroy the bride. I pray you'll open our eyes and our ears, Lord, and give us our own revelation as we can take it. I ask it in your name. Take away everything I've said, Lord, that's not profitable, and leave in people's hearts the things that the Holy Ghost can work on. I ask it in your name. Amen. God bless you. I hope you tune in for the next study. We're up to number 20 next study. Europe, the template. I'm going to show that Europe, the formation of Europe, was the template that the devil had to see if it worked to take over the world. Europe worked. We've got a United States of Europe and a president, and that's the plan for a United States of the world and a world president, the man of sin. So I hope you watch it. I hope to convince you of that. God bless you. Have a wonderful week.